This is The Discovery of the Americas, Part 2, by Betsy and Giulio Maestro. But Cristoforo Colombo, whom we know as Christopher Columbus, thought he knew a better way to get to India. Columbus, born in Italy in 1451, had been sailing all his life. By the time he was 30, he was already an experienced seaman and navigator. Columbus believed that he could reach the Far East more quickly by sailing west across the Atlantic Ocean. Many people thought Columbus was crazy, not because they believed the earth was flat, but because they were afraid the distance was too great. There was already much evidence to show that the earth was round, but no one they knew of had ever sailed out into the Atlantic and just kept going. Columbus needed a lot of money to pay for ships and supplies if he was to prove that his idea was right. He went to the King of Portugal, where he was living, to ask for help. When he was refused, he left for Spain, where he hoped King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella would give him the money for the voyage. They refused at first, but Columbus did not give up easily. Finally, after 8 years, they agreed to help him. On August 3, 1492, Columbus set sail with his 3 ships, the Niña, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, on his historic journey. With only a compass and the stars to help him, Columbus guided his ships across the Atlantic. The distance was very great, and life on board ship was miserable. Columbus and his crew were all very relieved when at last they sighted land on October 12, 1492. Columbus was sure that he had reached a part of Asia, but his first landfall was actually an island in the Bahamas. He sailed on to other islands, including Cuba, which he thought might be part of China or Japan. Columbus had rediscovered the Americas, although he did not know it. Columbus made 3 more voyages to the Americas for Spain. He visited Puerto Rico, Jamaica, and Trinidad, and on his 3rd trip, he traveled along the coast of South America. Until his death in 1506, Columbus insisted that he had reached the East Indies. He believed that if he had continued on, he would have found China. Columbus was wrong. To get to China, he would have had to sail around South America and across the Pacific Ocean. Nevertheless, the voyages of Columbus were among the most important ever made. He discovered the best possible sea routes between Europe and the Americas, which earned him the title the Great Navigator. He proved to all that such a long sea journey was possible, and in doing so he opened up a new world for all of Europe. While Columbus was sailing to the Caribbean islands and South America, another skillful Italian navigator, John Cabot, was also sent to search for a sea route to China and India. Sailing for the King of England, Cabot set out on his first journey in 1497. He took a northern route across the Atlantic and made landfall 2 months later in what is now Newfoundland, Canada. 500 years after the Vikings had landed there, John Cabot rediscovered North America. Unfortunately, Cabot's second journey in 1498 was his last. Of his 5 ships, only 1 returned to England, and Cabot himself was never heard from again. Although very little is known about his life or his voyages, Cabot's great journeys began the English exploration and settlement of North America. The discoveries made by Columbus and Cabot caused Europe to take a keen interest in the Americas. These unexplored lands seemed to offer the promise of vast riches, and other explorers were soon sent off across the Atlantic. One of these was Amerigo Vespucci, another Italian, who in 1499 began a number of voyages that followed the routes of Columbus. As Vespucci traveled down the South American coast, he felt sure that the lands found by Columbus were part of another continent not known before. Although many others shared this belief, Vespucci was the one to write about it, in an article that was published and widely read all over Europe. In 1507, a mapmaker, who thought that Vespucci had actually discovered the New World, used the name Amerigo to give the continent its name, America. A few years later, a Spanish explorer, Vasco Núñez de Balboa, sailed to Panama and journeyed overland through thick jungles and over mountains to reach the west coast of Central America. In 1513, from the top of a tall cliff, he sighted another large ocean, which he called the Southern Sea.
He was the first European to sight the Pacific Ocean from the American shore. Balboa was one of many European explorers who came to the New World to claim land, gold, and other riches for their countries. The Europeans did not care that the land and gold already belonged to other people who were there before them. Although these explorers were brave men, they were often brutal and cruel to the native people. They tried to force them to accept the Christian religion and to adopt European customs. As a result, the natives did not trust the newcomers and often attacked them.